Welcome to the More Than More podcast, where we discuss building meaningful, impactful businesses, careers, and lives through real estate.
All right. Good morning. Super excited to be sitting here with Renee Dunkel this morning. Say hi, Renee.
Hello, Angela.
Hi. This is super fun for me. Well, one, we have a lot of history that maybe we can tell people about if they don't already know, which I love. But two, we're rebooting the Clues to Success series, bringing that back up. It's been a while and changing the format a little bit. So obviously my voice is not Dylan's, who's done these conversations before. So our plan is that Dylan, Travis, and I are going to do these Clues to Success conversations and kind of in rotation, get lots of voices in, bring different agents in, and just honestly ask what's working, right? So that kind of idea of that Clues to Success. So thank you for being my first guinea pig on this.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I really don't have a whole lot of superintended plan for this, but one of the reasons that I was calling on you to do this right now in particular was you have had an absolute killer, amazing start to 2025. So really this is me wanting to catch up too and just see what's working, what's led to this amazing success in the first 2 months. I mean, what's been going on?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I think to myself already like, oh gosh, how am I going to beat this next year?
Don't do that to yourself. That is the enemy of all this. Yes.
For sure. But the things that have led up to where I'm at this year already is the conversations I've had in the past with just friends and past clients, and a couple of really great things landed in my lap, and I feel like I'm grateful for those things. It's I don't know, pinch me because I can't believe it's happening. But I love it, and I love my job. So I think that's the biggest piece. Is I feel like when I'm talking to people, it's not intentionally telling them I'm a real estate agent.
Right.
I'm unintentionally telling them I'm in real. I mean, I'm not like, oh, by the way, I'm in real estate. Like it's a casual conversation all the time. I remember one of the biggest closings I had already in January. It was literally from a year and a half prior.
There you go. Yeah.
And my son went to a birthday party, and I just started talking. I mean, I had my belt bag on that had Century 21 on it. And someone said, oh, you work for Century 21? I'm like, oh, I do. And I felt like I was just beaming of like how much I love my job.
Yeah.
And I think that's what led to this conversation.
Yeah.
Because I've known these people just a little bit because my son has gone to school.
They're kind of in the sphere, but kind of outside sphere-ish, right?
Yeah. And so when they reached out to me I know they knew other agents. We talked about them. And when they reached out, I was like, oh my gosh.
They called me.
And it just evolved from there. And so.
Yeah. And let's perhaps lay a little bit of groundwork. So I love where you're at there, because I feel like in context, we were saying this kind of upstairs as we were chatting and catching back up. And this is year 9 in your business, right? So this has been a long, right? I mean, as far as like, we're in your 9th year of real estate, right? As far as those conversations, right? Like you just said that it feels natural. It's just kind of who I am. I'm not blatantly in their face about like, I'm a realtor,
right.
But I guess what has made that happen for you over time and kind of laid that groundwork where it's just really, it just does come up, right? Or whatever that is in conversation, right?
Yeah. Boy, I don't really know. I mean, I just knew from the beginning, and I think that's what I loved about Century 21 is that they didn't tell me that I had to cold call everyone in order to get clients.
Right.
And so, I mean, I did start the space of buying leads, but my goal with that was to just meet people. I'm not originally from here. I wanted to meet people, and then I was hoping that they could see how much I loved my job and how much I wanted to help them so that they would continue to share my name.
Yeah.
Because that's what we were taught here. And so, I think that's kind of where it started. And then once I was able to let go of those online leads, I could see that kind of that snowball effect.
Yeah.
Of like, now I've got more clients. And again, unintentionally telling everyone that I'm in real estate, but the people that know me who bought a home with me say, I tell them, and I got to give a plug to Jess Gilligan because I loved how she said, I want to work with more awesome people like you.
Yes.
And so I feel like I've done a lot more of that to make sure they understand, like, how do I, my work by referral.
Yes.
And so I want them to understand how cool they are so that they can send me more of their cool people.
Yeah.
So,
Love that nugget. I recommend everyone go back and listen to that Jess Gilligan podcast on that to make it's easy, but it's like, it can be the best kept secret that we work by referral. And that's not the way that it works, right? You can't actually work by referral unless you're asking and telling and reminding, right?
Yep.
So let's go into that. You were interviewed for our masterclass conversion class, right? Because when we did that class, you were still, would you say 50-50 in the online lead conversion space?
For sure.
Right? So I love how you said, I was not from here. I needed to meet people. And one way that I was going to meet people was by buying some leads, just so you could get in front of more people. Tell me about this shift. You're now in year 9. Like, when did that start changing for you more drastically?
Sure. So it was actually, I don't know, hard blunt kind of, because I started to get those leads and have a big sigh of like, oh, I don't want to answer the phone right now.
Yeah.
And then when I started noticing, your phone kind of blowing up a little bit, like, oh my gosh, I just got another lead. And I remember telling my husband, like, oh my gosh, I just got another lead. Like, and it sometimes happens in groups and you're like, oh my gosh, it's time.
Yeah.
Because I think it was such a crazy feeling of, I just didn't love that conversion space anymore for online leads, because it didn't feel like me anymore. At the beginning, I loved it, but then I started to realize how much better it is to work by referral.
So tell me a little bit about that. That's an interesting statement. At the beginning, I loved it. What was it about that you did love?
Because I had time.
Yeah. Okay. Totally.
And also creating that confidence in having conversations with people.
Totally.
Because I think when you're new, I remember, I think when I was doing Zillow and people would call me and they're like, oh, I want to see XYZ property. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've already been in that. And that's because another lead asked to see the same home.
Yeah.
So then it made me feel more confident having conversations with those people. And I think I became more of an expert to them.
Right.
And so I fed off that and having the knowledge that those people were looking for, as the years go by, you get more confident in your conversations. Yeah. So that's where I knew when those online leads kept coming in and I just didn't have that same spark.
Right.
It was time to cut that.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about that shift. Was it about-ish? What year was that? And then was it a cold turkey, or this was a slow kind of process stepping out?
Wonderful Zillow.
It's okay.
They like to continue to, oh, you should buy more. You should buy more. And I did get into that a little bit. And then finally I was like, okay, I kind of reached my max where I was comfortable. So I would say probably around year, 5 or 6 is when I finally was like, okay. And I remember backing down a little bit in my spend. Yeah. But then eventually I was just like, nope, it's time.
Just cut it off.
I would say probably year 6.
Okay.
Yeah. It had to have been around year 6.
Okay.
Maybe even 7. Yeah. I mean, it was somewhere around there. I just remember saying like, it's time. And so I just remember cutting that cord.
Yeah. So we're somewhere in that 2 to 3 years, right? Of no more online lead space. Yeah. So talk to me about just this continuation. Well, so you've said the word confidence. I have more confidence in my conversations. You said like meeting people. So like you have a bigger subset of people to communicate with now. Being more intentional about the ask in a way that fits you and sounds like duh, yes, that's what I want to do, right? And telling people about working by referral. But what else does it look like? No more online leads. You still are having huge success. What else is like working in that space? Like, how are you communicating those kinds of things with your people?
So I don't belong to Buffini, but I follow that.
You're a Buffini girl. Yes.
So I do pop-bys.
Okay.
I don't necessarily do phone calls. Maybe text every so often.
Okay.
I also do, I love client parties.
Yay.
I
Okay.
absolutely love them. Probably not as great as like Megan does
Oh.
hers, but I think it's silly. When I was younger, I'm like, oh, I want to be an event coordinator. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
But I think that that's where even the Popeyes are fun for me too. Cause I'm like, oh, what can I do next? And I take a lot of pride in like putting a lot of time and energy into them.
Okay.
So I would say a lot of those are intentional. Those are very intentional to my past clients. And even my friends that I'm close with, sometimes I'll drop one off if it's like, a bottle of wine. I'm like, what friend wouldn't want a bottle of wine?
Yep.
They know I'm in real estate, but I think that just, shows where I'm at in my business and what I'm doing for my clients. And so I truly, and I do birthday cards.
Mm-hmm.
I just try really hard to stay in front of them. I don't have a calendar where it says, okay, this is the week that I'm doing it.
Okay.
I just I'm like, oh, it's time.
Okay. So talk to me, if there's not a calendar, even just in the Popeye event space, right? So maybe let's do camp on Popeyes first and then go to events.
Okay.
Are you more of a notice a need? That's the Buffini way of like, I'm more as I see things come up, that's when I pop by? Or are you a mass pop by person? Or how often? Just talk to me a little bit more about what's working for you in that space.
Yeah. So the mass one, I don't do a ton.
Okay.
I probably stick to around 15 to 20 Popeyes when I do them. And I would say I do them about 2 to 3 times a year.
Cool.
And I mean, I feel like I try hard to spend a little money when I'm doing them.
Yeah.
So I, like I said, a bottle of wine, I mean, it probably was a $10 bottle of wine, but when you do that over 20 people,
Yeah.
it adds up.
Yeah.
But again, I don't also want to just drop off a bunch of junk either.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in terms of timing, I think I just think about, last year I remember doing a New Year's Eve one. I'm not going to do one. I think of
Different
holidays.
Okay.
Yeah. So different holidays that are coming up, or, if summer's coming up and I do a sunscreen, I think I did one year.
Yeah. Love.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just, my mind's always wandering of what I can do next. So whether I'm on Etsy or just looking at, what other agents are doing.
Yeah.
I just, something just pops up and I do it. I don't necessarily have it. Probably should, but
no, it's okay. It's very normal. Very normal. So, I mean, the intention is 2 to 3 times a year, like you said, getting in front of 15 to 20 people at a time. I mean, those are not small either, right? I mean, like you said, intending to double down a little bit more on the quality of those. So you can they can feel a little bit extra special. Okay. So you said they give you energy because like who wouldn't want a bottle of wine?
Yeah.
Right? So,
yes.
do you generally work to set it up where you get to see the people? Because I know a lot of people, again, Popeye's like drop and go.
I'm more of a drop and go.
Okay.
I really am. And that's not because I don't want to talk to them, because if I have a couple clients around, I also am very intentional with I might tell them I'm dropping them off, or I might send them a text that I dropped something off, because then that creates another conversation.
Yes. Perfect.
Because also some people don't use their front door; they just use the garage, and then I
So
just drop
true.
something off at the front door.
They're never gonna look.
Yes. So I also want them to know that I dropped something off. So I'm more of a drop and go, but I obviously try hard to make sure they know that I was there, and just that starts more conversations.
Yeah, cool. So even if you don't see them, it still is energy fulfilling for you. One, favorite people, giving them something of higher quality, and starting conversations in other contexts as well.
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit more about what works well for you with client parties. I did not know this event coordinator space about you. That's the first time I've maybe heard that. So that's fun.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
All the things.
Yes. I mean, and again, I think I was chatting with a couple other agents, and they were kind of shocked that I don't do the same thing every year. And I'm like, well, that to me is boring.
Okay. Yep.
But
You like the differentiation. Okay.
I love to do different things.
Okay.
Like my first one that I did was a chili cook-off.
Mm-hmm.
It was so much fun.
May I ask real quick when your first one was, like in your years of business? I was like context.
Boy, that one was before COVID.
Okay.
So it would have been in probably 2019.
Okay. So I'm trying to think, that would have been like 3 years in. Yep.
And I also did it during a playoff game, because again, I think that's, leading up to those, it's still it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, people are going to be watching the game, so I won't have to entertain. And
right.
there's chili, and everyone loves chili. And it was actually like a contest. So my clients brought the chili, and it was so much fun.
Love that.
Yeah. and I feel like going back to all of the ones I did, I feel like I'm missing one, but then I was on, I did like a watch party for house hunters.
Yes.
So again, they're there to watch something, and I'd only have to talk a little bit. Like, again, I was trying to find ways to have fun without feeling overwhelmed with the whole thing.
Yeah. And what Renee is not saying in there is that she was in the episode of House Hunters and invited her friends and family and clients to come watch it with her for a watch party. That's fun. I love that client event around something.
Yes. That was a blast. Also stressful because you have no idea when it was coming out. So,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but it was very cool. And then for 2 years in a row, I took my clients to a Savannah Bananas.
Oh,
game.
yes.
And first year was chaotic because it was like a free for all. No one had seats. And then the second year we actually had seats. So that worked out a little better. But again, it's more about the experience that I wanted to give to my clients and less about me. So, I just love it. So now I'm kind of challenged because I don't know what I'm going to do next.
No, you don't know what to do next.
I love thinking about it. I love thinking about what I'm going to do next. So
okay. So I like your thought process there is the experience, right? And I, for the ease of planning too, I don't have to entertain them. There is something they're already going to be entertained by, right? Is kind of the thought process there. And then just kind of a gathering space.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me a little bit in client party space, because this is fun to kind of talk through. Even Savannah Bananas, right? So then the second year you learned, okay, having assigned seats, things like that worked better. Talk to me just about the marketing schematic around that, like how much work goes into it, communication wise and out of it.
Yeah. So I actually had a lot of fun with this last one because I did a pop by prior to the second one.
Ooh, fun.
Yes. And the pop by was a clear bag because you can't bring in, you have to have a clear bag to go. Yep. And then I created like a survival kit for Savannah Bananas.
So fun.
So I had like sunglasses and glow sticks for at night. Yeah. I loved it. So then what I did was I popped by and it also had their tickets in it. So I don't know. It was just, I will say, I just have way too much fun with it.
Yeah. No, that's so great. And as far as the growth of these events, kind of like the last thing on these as we wrap up what's working in event space, growth of these events over time, right? Like starting with the chili cook-off in year 3, now we're inviting, how many people to Savannah Bananas?
Well, I only had so many tickets.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right.
So, I think I had 125 tickets and, I think at the end of the day, well, and because it was a second year, I think that some people had already been to it. So it was, the first year I only had 75 tickets. So So, 125 people ended up coming the second time.
Yeah.
My very first one I think was, 50 or 60-ish.
That's really good.
So, yeah.
That's really good for that early on in your business. I feel like it's really impressive. Momentum, right? Like you had a little momentum on this one. People that have already came last year, and then people maybe who had FOMO for missing the year before. Yeah. That one's I might have some FOMO. That one's really fun. I love that. And I didn't know you did all the other stuff around that. So talk to me just, again, let's go back to crazy, amazing success, January, February. Number one realtor in Iowa right now, number one realtor in our company. And as far as C21, number one in Iowa. And then you are in the top 10 nationally in C21. Crazy, right? So let's just camp on that for a little bit more. I want to go back to that. We always say, the work that you did, and you've already been alluding to this, to get closings in January, February like that started year and a half ago, or we wrote these offers, in Q4 for these first Q1 closings. So just kind of work backwards for me. Like what was your success? What worked for you setting up all of this future business?
Well, honestly, I feel like, what did I do? I don't know.
Okay.
I say that because it's all unintentional. It's difficult to answer that question sometimes because I love my job. And I hope that that's the reason that people feel that. I feel like I'll do anything I can for my clients. I always want them happy with me. So, during that, what led to this January and February numbers, top 10 is nuts.
That is amazing.
I don't think, I'll enjoy it while it's here.
Yeah. That's okay. You do it. Please do.
But, I really feel like, things just fell into my lap. A custom home that got built was supposed to actually close in December. And I'm like, oh, it's going to go January. Ooh, that's going to start my January. Great.
Yeah, got it.
But again, that goes back to the conversation that I had a year and a half ago. Again, I had no idea that that's where it was going to lead.
Yep.
And then the home they were selling ended up going under contract right after the first of the year. So
Right.
it all just worked.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that I really, throughout the process of the custom build and that home going under contract, I feel like I did a great job letting them understand that I'm always here for them. What can I do to help? They knew that I was always working hard to get their home sold, lots of conversations. And I suppose, another really good one closed. I shouldn't just say just those two. I had another $1.2 million close in January, and that was from a past client referral.
Love that.
It was the mom of a daughter I helped from another referral. So it's just...
Ooh, I love the referral snowball that's happening for you.
So I feel like, every transaction I'm in is not a transaction. It's a relationship that I'm trying to build every time. And it's not, again, I keep using the word unintentional. I'm not, thinking to myself, oh, I got to do this because I need a referral. I'm doing it because I want my clients to be treated the way I'd want to be treated during the whole process of buying and selling. So, yeah.
And what would you attribute that referral snowball to, though, specifically? There's got to be, and maybe it does go back to the pop buys and the client events or whatever else, and that kind of like laying that groundwork and staying in front of your people. But specifically, maybe you're year 8. You're at year 9, right? We also say there is something to be said about longevity in this business and laying the right foundation along the way. But what do you think this particular snowball of referrals is attributed to?
Well, I think when you get one referral, I think it's really important to help that client understand, like, okay, you were referred to me by your friend, and I would love for you to refer me to your friends as well, friends and family. So those conversations, I think, are happening not at the beginning and the end. They're happening throughout the whole time.
There you go. Okay.
So, I recently, I don't remember when, just recently, going through a inspection, we just were talking about the people that referred me, and it had nothing to do with like talking about referrals. It was just like bringing them back into
to that
it.
Connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that, towards the end, sometimes that conversation's so organic. They're like, oh my God. That one that closed in January, for the 1.2 million, she's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Just like my daughter sending me to you, I have to do the same for you.
Oh, I love that.
I didn't say anything. That's just something she said to me. So I feel like it just organically happens sometimes. And I love that because I hope they felt that I was taking care of them the whole time, that they really wanted to do that same thing for me.
Right.
So.
Everything you're saying is actually reminding me of the roundtable. At roundtable where we said how to build an advocate, right? I feel like you've been very intentional about the first pillar of building an advocate, which is we have to create that remarkable client experience, right? If you don't have a remarkable client experience and you didn't make them feel good and cared for, which sounds like the communication piece is super duper important to you, those kinds of things, right? Making them feel super cared for and supported. You've got them along the way. That was very intentional. Then I think layering in this advocacy idea, right, is you are doing that intentionally, right? So you just said, I'm constantly, just like you were referred to me from, right? And so planting those seeds along the way and bringing back those connections of those relationships, I think you are continuing to build an advocate by having that extraordinary experiences and continuing to link it back to those referrals.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else on that, let's say in that like second space where you're kind of that reminder of advocacy besides the experience? Is there more that you think that you are doing or saying, or even a switch that's changed or been dialed up in the last 2-3 years?
I don't think so.
I
honestly think that, I feel like I've been doing the same thing. And back to my podcast from how many years ago, I said, I'm just doing my job.
Okay.
And I feel like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything extraordinary. I'm just doing my job. So whether, I don't know. I I suppose I know there's lots of agents out there that don't feel, it's more of a transaction, and
Right.
the more they get through, the better. As where I would prefer to only have 30 for the year,
Right.
and want all 30 of those clients to feel like they're my only clients.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, but I think, yeah, nothing extraordinary. I think what you are doing is extraordinary, as far as the level of care and the level of communication. And it's honestly beautiful. We take the relational approach to the business, right? And when you put that relationship first and how they feel first over everything else, and it's not just a transaction, that is the extraordinary, right? That is what makes people within our walls different than some of the things that are happening outside of our walls.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit. Okay. So talk to me. I really do. Everything that you just said reminded me of both of those things and how to build an advocate. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, right? Because it is creating a little bit more of that snowball referral-based momentum, which is amazing because that's where we want everybody to be. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit shift to, you just said this was a 1.2 and this is, these are big numbers, as we look across the state of Iowa, especially in some markets, right? But you really have been playing in the upper sales price for a while. Do you know what your average sales price was last year, by the way?
It was in the 400-ish range.
Nice. Yeah. So I think that is definitely, above average of what the rest of the Des Moines market is doing. So clearly you are kind of landing in that upper sales price more often than not. So what is that? Is there intentionality there? Has there been direction there? Has it been your sphere? What has that been? How has that grown and changed for you?
I think that's a slightly difficult question to answer. Again, only because, I think to a lead I got last year that the person, it was not a referral.
Okay.
They just did a lot of research online and they called me, and I can tell you, I remember the conversation, mm-hmm. and I remember thinking, oh gosh, do I want this listing? Because it was a $500,000 home. Not extremely high, but not low. And, it was a difficult transaction, but the reason I remember thinking, but do I walk away, is he'd already let go the first agent who didn't even get it listed yet. And so I knew that person, very type A, mm-hmm. Was probably going to run the show a little bit more than I was going to, mm-hmm. but I knew that. And again, I think that that's just a new challenge for me. Okay. That I want to please them because they're going to be a harder one to please, but challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. I like that.
It was hard, but I will tell you that at the end of that transaction, he's like, there is no one else I would have rather had.
Nice job.
And so that feeling for me, I didn't think I was going to be able to please him, but I did. And so now that leads to another lead that's over $2 million.
Okay.
And that's just from a friend of theirs who's selling. And so, the work I did in the past is helping me in the future.
Yeah. So did a lot of research online. Did you nail down specifically where he was researching you, where he saw you, what attributed him calling you was to?
He didn't, I remember him talking about it, but I think it was many different places. So, mm-hmm. I know he looked at other agencies, different brokerages. Okay. The person he let go was from another larger local brokerage.
Okay.
But then I think social media was one of them.
Okay. Good.
And I don't know that I do social media, but I don't necessarily know that, I'm not on video a lot, but I think it shows that I want my clients in front of, anyone else that I'm friends with. And I don't know, I was also very particular in my photos. Like, I am probably too particular.
No.
And,
your clients deserve that, yes. Right? And that was something that he saw. Okay.
I always joke around with my sellers, like, don't watch me put the sign in the yard, because I'm a type A when it comes to that. And I want that sign as perfect as possible.
Do you bring a level?
No.
Okay.
Okay. But I tell them, I'm like, don't watch me, because I will pound that thing down into the ground, and then I'll put the sign on, I'm like, nope. And I'll take it back out and I'll try again, because I think that's just who I am. Right. I want it to be perfect. I don't want that sign looking crooked, because I feel like, that's the first impression that people get, and my sign should not be crooked on the sign. I don't know. It's just silly stuff. But, but anyway, I do think that I try really hard to please everyone. Might be a fault as well. You know?
Do you know what you are on the Enneagram, by the way?
I do not.
Okay. Just curious.
Yes.
I'm getting a little, 1, 2, 3 is kind of where I'm in the 1, 2, 3 space, like people pleasers. I mean, you and Vic and I were talking a little bit, not being able to say no very often. That's kind of one of our,
that's me.
Maybe it's okay. But I think that want, to go above and beyond, right? Like I love the challenge accepted. Like I am going to make this man happy. Like I am going to like make him so happy. And that has turned into now a referral to somebody else.
Correct.
Right. So like I did it, like you did that thing. Right. So even with the most difficult clients in difficult situations, still at the end of the day, getting them where they want to go and living in that space where they're happy. They're happier at the end of the day because of it, even though it's stressful along the way. Yeah. Talk to me. So then you had mentioned that this person had already specifically let go of somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. I think you have played in the space. You were just kind of sharing a little bit about this as kind of being the second realtor. So what works, that is more difficult, I think, right? So talk to me a little bit more about what works well for you in that space, other than when you know it's like, okay, challenge accepted, I am winning this person over. Yeah. Is there anything else there that like being that second realtor that gives you
my bucket?
What is that?
So the reason I like to be the second sometimes is you find out what they were unhappy with. And I think what's really crazy to me when they start talking about what they're unhappy with, my jaw hits the ground like, that's a minimum. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, this one recently, the client said that she reached out to the agent and 2 weeks later she got a response, and I was like, what? Like, that is just not okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a listing that's been on the market for a while, but I said to this client, I said, boy, if I don't get someone responded back to within 2 hours, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm not around, like
that I'm behind. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, no, even like 24 hours. I'm like, oh no. I will be in touch right away. Like, I don't know. So I don't mind being the second one because you just learn the things that they were unhappy with. And most of the time it's like, well, that's just my normal self that's, I'm not going to be like that. Mm-hmm. And so the reassurance of, I've, bringing in my chicks, like, I got you. It's okay, it's going to be okay. Yeah. And I think that, my intentionality of making sure their home represents the best it possibly can when we go on the market, that's my.
Yeah. Love that. I think that's the most brilliant thing there too, is we get in being the second or third or whatever it may be, you get to learn from others' mistakes by simply asking what didn't go well? Right. What were the problems? What were the issues that you had in particular that you're moving on, right? Because then, yes, you know exactly what you need to do to overcome those. And sometimes, a lot of times, they're super simple things that you're like, no, I've got you. Like, that is something that I already do. Yeah. Don't you worry. And sometimes it is just insightful. Like, okay, I know not to do that, or I know to really focus on that particular thing for this person because I asked. Correct. I asked the question. I learned from others' mistakes. Yep. Cool. So, I mean, so many good nuggets, little things along the way. What's maybe not working, right? What does the rest of 2025 look like as far as not working, or what are you wanting to get done this year, starting the year so amazingly? But what's next? Like, what do you need to keep working on this year?
I need to hire an assistant.
Okay.
It's out in the universe again.
We're putting it in the universe again. Yes.
I don't mind taking care of all parts of my business, but I also know that I'm going to harm myself in order to grow more. Yep. I can only do so much.
Yeah, totally.
I have kids in school that I'm also running them around.
Yep.
Going to their tournaments.
Yep.
And so, I feel like they probably take the fall a little bit, when I'm, I don't want to say no to clients. And so, okay, buddy, come with me while we go do this. And, so it's time for me to find someone that can help me grow my business.
Yeah.
So that's probably what's not working the most.
Yeah.
That's okay, because I'm gonna figure it out.
You're gonna find somebody. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it makes me think of Dylan talks all the time about the trade-off, right? Mm-hmm. The trade-off there, not having that person right now, is that you are having to do that, and it's less time that you have to go be with your people, to do the pop by, to plan the client, because you just can't do it all.
Right.
You can't do it all.
Yep.
So getting help, and specifically what way? Like where's the pieces that you really want to have support for so that you can go do those other things?
Well, that's an interesting question. So, I sit here and I say how much I love doing pop-bys, but I know that that's also something that would be easy for me to kind of delegate.
Yeah.
But I think that I can't let go of wanting to put them together because I love that part, you know?
Yes, it's just so funny.
I wouldn't mind someone being able to drop them off, but I'm still the person that reaches out and says, hey, got something dropped off to you today.
You can still start a conversation a different way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of the transaction stuff that happens, like, here's what's happening for inspection. This is what we're looking for. It's the back end stuff that I think I really need help with.
Yeah.
Because some of that stuff I feel like kind of goes on the back burner. And sometimes I feel like I'm not doing my job good enough because I'm like, oh, I didn't send that email prior to the inspections. And but I'm also at the inspection. So it all works itself out. I just think that I could be even better if I had those, things happening on the back end more often.
So most immediate is really just getting some assistance with some stuff, right? So you can get things off your plate and really focus your attention where you need to, and also be a mom and a wife and all those life things.
Correct.
What's even next after that? Do you have anything in your mind for where you're wanting to go next?
No, I don't.
You're like, I just need to survive.
Yes. Yes.
That's okay.
I don't necessarily have that 5-year goal. And, every year when it comes time to plan, I don't have a huge, I just don't have, I pretty much think about my numbers and I think about where I want those to be next year. And, I guess I'm just going to hustle to get it. I don't have specific things I do to make it happen. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I do, but, and what I'm going to do next, but I don't want a big team. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
That's just not me. I love doing what I do. I feel like I want to be in control all the time. I want my clients to have the exact same experience every time that they come back to me.
That's hard through others, right?
Correct. So that's why I know I want to keep it small. And that doesn't mean that big groups don't do a great job. I just know for me, that's not where I want to be.
Yeah, so that's great. Any last minute advice, pieces of wisdom for anybody as we wrap up today? Because there's so many good nuggets. Really good. Yeah, really good stuff.
I don't necessarily know. I think the biggest thing is keep having conversations. And I tell a lot of new agents, go to open houses because those conversations, a lot of those people they're not going to remember you at all. Just have conversations with them.
Yeah.
Don't try to feel like you want them as a sale. Just have a conversation.
Yeah.
Way back when I was doing Zillow, I remember this lady kept calling me. I don't know. I think I might have said this in my last podcast. She kept calling me for directions.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I just kept answering the phone and giving her directions. And finally she's like, it was really nice of you. Just keep answering my phone call. And now that one person, I think, has sent me 4 or 5 referrals.
Amazing.
It's just a conversation and just, let's give them the pickle.
Give them what they want, right? Give them the thing that they want to kind of keep developing that relationship and value, whatever value looks like to them, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's really good. What's the rest of your day look like? What you doing next?
Well, I have a builder walkthrough and a builder meeting with a client. So
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, love those builder meetings. That's really good. Well, I super appreciate your time. Thanks for being here and really good nuggets along the way. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Head to morethanmorepodcast.com.